Welcome, everyone, to Alchemy of Awakening. My name's Holly Hawkins, and I am so pleased that you've arrived here for this episode. Today, I am pretty excited about this. I have a special guest this time who I know you're going to enjoy because she's here and she's going to be able to shed some light on something that I have noticed is very significant in holding people back. Sometimes it leaves them not trusting their inner wisdom, perhaps keeping them from moving forward literally in the life that they envision or dream about. And we don't want that to happen for anybody, do we? And because one of the major things that I've seen come up over and over again over my 20 years of working with clients, working with students in the Akashic Records, channeling, all of this, is that it's very common for people not to trust their intuition or feel like it's a mystery. They might not be clear on how to tap into it so that they feel confident. And I've even had people say, oh, no, I don't have any of it at all. And this leads, from what I've observed, to so much hesitation for people, feeling insecure, again, holding them back. They might have a dream or a vision and they feel like that's my lack of understanding or connection or expansion of my intuition keeps me from doing what I want to do. And so this is where, in today's episode, I'd love to introduce you to my guest for this episode of Alchemy of Awakening, Dina Berrin. And before I let her start sharing with us, I just wanted to share a little bit more with you about her. She has a lot of experience and a lot of wisdom that I know is going to help all of you. So Dina is an intuitive guide. She's also a certified life coach, a speaker, and she's written a book. Yay for writing books. And the title of the book is The Way Within: Igniting Your Intuition with Sacred Tools. And we're going to talk about that because that's a very intriguing title. And she has had more than 25 years of experience. And with that, she blends tarot, numerology, astrology, charm reading, and grounded coaching, which is always nice to get that grounded aspect to help people strengthen self-trust, essential for intuition, navigate the transitions that happen in life, and reconnect with their inner wisdom. Dina is a firm believer that intuition is not something mysterious. I love that. Or it's not only reserved for a few gifted people, but it's a skill that every single person can learn to trust through their body, through patterns, through timing, and honest self-reflection. So today, Dina's joining us to explore how to tell the difference between your intuition and your fear, how to hear your inner voice in the middle of life's noise, so important, and what it really means to trust yourself again. So welcome, Dina. I'm so pleased that you're here, ready to share with us about this really important topic that is so mysterious for so many.
Thank you for having me, Holly. I'm thrilled to be here.
Wonderful. So let's just start really basic from the beginning so that we're all kind of on the same page, and especially on the same page with regard to your sense of this. What would be your Intuition 101 definition of what intuition actually is?
Sure. So intuition is the sense of knowing that comes without any logical reasoning or conscious thought. It's that inner feeling. Sometimes it's described as a gut instinct or maybe some sudden clarity that you get about a situation, decision, or even a person. Often this happens before you have all the facts. So some people may describe intuition as a quiet whisper, this knowing that guides them even when they can't explain why.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, I loved so much of what you said because I think a common question that comes up is, well, if it feels like a gut feeling, how do I know it's really my intuition? What do
So,
you
you know,
say to that?
yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I also want to say that intuition, as you mentioned in my intro, it's not mystical or only for a few people. It's a natural human ability. Seriously. And so it's like what I consider to be like this inner compass. And that inner compass combines with your experiences, feelings, and your subtle observations, and it helps you move through life. So we make choices, and sometimes we sense when things are not or are right for us. And like, you ever like kind of have like what I call like your spidey senses, like
Mhm.
maybe like, and this may be an extreme version, but like if somebody were to say to you, oh, come walk down this dark alley with me.
Yeah.
Well, kind of like a little radar might go up and be like, I don't know if this is like the best decision. Like I feel as though, so your intuition is and I just wanted to kind of like, another way that I describe intuition is to kind of compare it to what fear or anxiety might feel like.
Yeah.
And intuition is very quiet. It's almost like a whisper. It's just like this, all of a sudden, you have this like feeling in your gut, in your throat. It's just like this knowing, whereas opposed to anxiety or fear is more like an alarm bell being rung. It is very loud, it is very intrusive, and it's kind of like when if I were to compare it to breathing, intuition is very calm. You're taking deep breaths. You're paying attention. Whereas, like, you ever like when you get very anxious or nervous, you do like very short, shallow breathing.
Yeah.
That to me is more fear and anxiety. So, not only is it a feeling that you have in your body, you can literally turn inward to check in with your body to figure out which it is.
Right, right. And I think that I love that idea that it's so gentle and it's calming and it's not going to agitate you if you're actually receiving intuition. And what that brings up for me also is I'm sure you've run into this a lot working with the people you work with around intuition is why do you feel that it is so common for people to question or not trust that they have intuition, that what they're receiving is intuitive? Because, like you talk about the dark alley, somebody could say, that's not intuition, that's common sense to not go down a dark alley with somebody, right? So in that case, it's like I think that's where people get into it, like, but I have some information, but is it intuition and which one should I follow? And because I think there's a lot of desire to be led by an energy bigger than our cognitive mind, our database, which our database would say don't go down an alley with anybody, intuition or not.
I can understand that. So, let me give you a different perspective on this. So, but when we are younger, and once again, we are born into families. We don't, not that we don't always, we never get to pick our family. We are born into families, and from our very youngest years, we are taught how to move through the world through our different role models, and whether they be teachers or they be family, like whoever it is. And, in some situations, we are taught not to trust feelings that we have. We are taught to logically make a decision. So, like, it's almost like a math equation. Like, if 1 + 1 = 2, like, I have to make this equation equal a certain amount. And a lot of times we go into what I call analysis paralysis. So, we start analyzing and getting very logical about a situation where, as if you were to follow your gut instinct, you may not come to the same conclusion. Like, for example, say when you were a child, say there was somebody at your school that maybe your mom was friendly with a classmate's mom. And maybe you and this classmate weren't exactly simpatico. Maybe like you weren't, this wasn't someone that you would choose to have like a play date with after school. But
Yeah.
because your moms were friends, your mom set up the play date. So the next thing you know, you're going to hang out with this kid that you're kind of like half baked on. And so as a child, you might think like, oh, there's somebody else that I would rather hang out with. There was somebody else that I would rather be friends with. But at that time, like you're like, okay, my mom set this up. Like logically, I'm just going to go along and do what was planned. Because as a child, you don't really feel like you have the free agency to be like, I want to have a play date with that other child instead, kind of thing. Can we cancel this and reschedule the whole thing? That's just not how things go. So I feel as though what happens in life is that sometimes things are expected to go a certain way. And because we were never told either it could be any different or because we were taught, do not stir the pot. When something is set up, follow along, do as you
Right.
are told. So you're you are born with intuition, but what happens is in your earlier years, you are either encouraged to tap into it. And, maybe you have a parent that says to you, well, what would you like to do? Like, what would you like for lunch? Instead of your mom just making you mac and cheese and saying, here's your lunch kind of thing. Like a lot of times, things are just done because listen, parents are busy and there's just not enough time to,
Right.
have options all the time. I understand that completely. But what happens is we begin to turn off that feeling and we begin to go into logic. And
Right.
it follows us because what we learn in our younger years kind of sets the pattern for
Hmm.
how we move through life. So then what happens is when we get to older, we deal with different issues in our lives, we then have to analyze things in the same way. But if we are not used to tapping into how we feel, we go into that logical analysis and we
Right.
start making decisions like they're math equations instead of just tuning into what our body is telling us.
Right. Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah, I just, that idea that it's almost like an unexercised appendage that so we were born with all of our five senses, but we know we have more than that. But it was the five senses that were always reinforced. The other one's still hanging out there. It's not like you're missing it. It just then when we get older and we might get curious about it, we just need to start exercising it. It's not that it wasn't there, it just wasn't reinforced the same way as what color is the banana, or do you like the taste of this strawberry, or whatever it is. That's all about the physical senses versus the non-physical awareness.
Absolutely. And what you brought up is a very important point. Like you're mentioning, it's not exercised. So, going to the gym and quote unquote exercising, or whether we are meditating on a regular basis, or whatever it is that you do on a regular basis to kind of like keep you in your most fulfilled and happy place. This is what I call a practice. You need to have a consistent practice to do
Right.
what it is that keeps you kind of literally plugged in and using, this appendage that maybe if we do not do this thing, it
Right.
becomes weak. So your intuition is a muscle just like any of the other things that you do. Like, for example, if you don't carry groceries on a regular basis, when you go to the store and have to carry really heavy groceries, it might be too much for you. You might not be able to do that. So, just like that, like intuition, you have to slowly build up the strength. You have to slowly build up the practice of it, and then you can start slowly leaning into it and try testing it with little things like, which line is going to move quicker at the gas station or,
Right.
you know, having like an instinct, like which family member is going to talk to me first at Thanksgiving, or like kind of like just leaning into the things that aren't specifically going to affect you in the long term in life. But as you begin to use that muscle, it builds, and then you
Right.
can start using it for day-to-day things.
Yeah, and things that maybe matter more than whether what line goes faster at the gas station, right?
Correct,
Which
correct.
is
But you start small, is what I'm
right.
saying. So
Yeah,
you
and
don't
like
have,
yeah, with no charge on it. Like my life is going to go on fine whether I get that or not.
correct,
Right.
correct. But
Right.
before you start deciding whether, you should accept a job or if you should, kind of terminate a friendship or do something large in your
Yeah.
life that will be more effective to you, you should try with smaller things. But this is how an intuition is built. Like, so you're
Right.
saying like you are born with it, but once again, you're born with a lot of things that if you don't use it, you lose the strength in that thing,
Right.
and
Yeah.
then you'll
And
have to
so,
go back.
yeah, so that sits in that foundational idea. We all have it. And I also liken it to the times, like evidence, if you will, of our intuitive capacity. For an example that's coming to mind right now is like when you're talking to a friend and maybe they're troubled about something and you just suddenly have this incredible insight flow through you that you might not logically have connected to, but that to me is you're intuitively connecting to what they need to hear and what's right for them in the moment. And away you go. And there you are saying something that might be quite inspired or just what they need to hear in the moment. And it's like being able to notice those times too and not take them for granted and say, oh, there's my intuition, and celebrate when we do see our intuition coming online.
Exactly. And it's funny because, like, just on the reverse of that, it's like sometimes, I mean, I've talked to clients that have said, I mean, I've had clients say when they were walking down the aisle to get married and they knew instinctively this was not the right thing for them, but they did it
Wow.
anyway. So I've had a couple people say that to me. And the thing is, sometimes not only do we have the feeling that we should say something, we also sometimes override the feeling that we should say something because we think, well, oh, maybe it's just a passing feeling, or I don't want to upset the apple cart, or like, I feel like we rationalize to ourselves why we should go in a different direction and go the logical route. Like logically, it doesn't make sense to to cancel your wedding when you're literally walking down the aisle. But intuitively, if you felt like, my whole job in my life is to do things, it's to take action and just to move forward in a way that serves me in the best way. What if you moved forward in your life and you did that all the time? How many things that you're currently saying yes to would you now all of a sudden begin to think about, is this the best choice?
Right.
And, what would be possible for you? Like, how much time would you get back in your life if you only said yes to the things that felt intuitively in alignment?
Yeah. That would be a probably a game changer for a lot of us. And then also in like if you had a whole society or the globe doing that, it would be interesting to see how that energetic ripple would flow around.
Yeah,
It-
it would be like pretty monumental. I think that it would be life-changing, as you said.
yeah.
And so that's why it's very important to me, like not only to live my life from a very intuitive based place, but to teach my clients how to find their intuition if they don't know what it is. Because a lot of times when I start working with someone, I usually one of the questions I start with is, what is your relationship with your intuition? And sometimes people will say, I don't have one, or I'm not sure what that is. Can you explain it to me?
Yeah.
And I said, okay, now I know we're starting from zero. Like now I know that we are, we're going to need to begin with the, like almost like teaching you the ABCs once again. But once you know it, you can't unknow it.
Right. Yeah. It's getting back on the bike again, right?
Exactly, exactly. And once you start living your life from a more intuitively centered place, who wants to go back?
Right. Because conceivably, and I'm saying conceivably to really, give you an opportunity to share more about this. Conceivably, when you're following your intuition, things work out.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
I agree with it 1000%. Yes. And I feel as though once again, we live in a world where we are many of us, and I'm not throwing shade on anyone, is concerned. Like in this world where social media is king, we are very worried about what other people think. Are we being judged? Are we being compared? What does it look like to be perfect? And am I, measuring up to that standard? So if maybe the path that you are looking to take isn't that, we begin to also in our mind rationalize, well, how is this going to be perceived by the outside world? And what if it's not okay? Like, okay from who? So I also feel like I want to challenge the thought that living intuitively, you don't, is also requiring you to be on your team, not on the team of worrying about judgments and comparisons and everything else. It is it is a lifestyle that can feel a little bit uncertain or uncomfortable at first
Right.
because so often we make decisions to make other people happy, and to live intuitively is a path forward where you are making choices to make you happy.
Right. And then I would, again, I'm prodding you with the next thing for you to
Sure.
share here. This idea that, like, in the beginning, we could be insecure and I don't know if this is going to work out. And I'm not used to showing up for myself and making decisions on my behalf, that kind of thing. But when we practice it and we're exercising our intuitive muscles and we see the result of it and we notice that, wow, that worked out well. Even if there might be some wobbly in between moments, but like in the long run, that was a great thing. And the next thing is a great thing. And then it just becomes sort of self-fulfilling where it becomes easier. We have less resistance to it because the proof is in the pudding. Like, I followed that. Wow, it worked out, and oh, I followed it again and it's still working out. And then we want to do it more. And I just feel like I think about a lot in the world of energy, and it's like our, that resistance creates like a barrier for us to just flow forward. And the more we trust it, it gets exciting and it's fulfilling. And so that barrier begins to dissolve. And we're just more in that yes of living more constantly in our intuition.
Yeah, and this barrier and this like when you were talking, the vision that came to my mind was of a fish swimming upstream, kind of like
Mm-hmm.
in the reverse of the current. And and this kind of brings me to a place of what I call alignment and living authentically. So I think that what happens is when we become more aware of our intuition and become more aware of the type of life we are looking to live. Very often, we look around and we see the places where maybe we are swimming upstream. So, interestingly, like a lot of the clients that I work with come to me because they are at a transition point
Yes.
in their
Yes.
lives. They're either changing careers, or maybe they're going through a divorce, or they're becoming an empty nest, or they're moving to a new area, or like a big change in their life is
Yeah.
happening. And what's coming up is it's triggering a lot of questions about how do they want to live. And so I think that what happens is a lot of change is possible when you become more aware of your intuition, because all of a sudden, every single area of your life, like, are your relationships feeling authentic? Is your job in alignment with who you want to be? Like, are you clear about your path to like who your future self is? And like, if like, say you see yourself 2, 5, 8 years down the road doing a certain type of work, and you look at the work that you're doing now and you're thinking, I don't know how where I am now is going to connect me
Right.
ultimately there. I think I need to pivot, kind of thing. So I feel as though what happens is when you start becoming more connected to your intuition, all these other ideas and topics and themes start bubbling up.
Yeah.
But all of this is a path towards a more authentic life. So I feel as though ultimately it's a win for
Yeah.
you, but I'm not saying that it's going to be comfortable. every step of the way because you are being asked once again. Because sometimes people are used to swimming upstream. They're almost like, oh, this is like just a Tuesday. Like me swimming
Right.
upstream is just like what I do every week, kind of thing.
Right.
But my question is, what if it didn't have to be this way?
Right.
What if it could
Right.
be easier for you? And what if you were in the driver's seat?
Yeah, I love it because I believe also, I in my work I talk a lot about what's in the collective conscious, meaning these are, it's the energetic field of basically what we traditionally believe about life on this planet. And a lot of it we don't consciously think about all the time. But the idea when you say, well, it's just a Tuesday and we all swim upstream, that is part of that collective consciousness that life is hard and then you die. Just like that we struggle here. And we all have lots of evidence of things that could be hard. But from what you're saying and what I understand is also as we begin to tap in, learn to trust, exercise the intuitive muscles so we get confident in it, we don't have to be swimming upstream. Or if we're
Right.
swimming upstream, we're aware of it and we understand why, but we can also know the right moment to go, time to turn around and just float downstream, right? Instead of bucking the tide. And so I think some of this is kind of, I'm going to say radical, because I believe more of us who wake up and live in connection to our intuition, some of these paradigms that we believe to be true will transform. What if life wasn't hard all the time because
Right.
we were aware of turn right instead of left? And I don't just mean driving down the road, that could be part of
No,
it. But I mean, just
metaphorically.
in life that like, no, I know that I'm supposed to take that job, or I know beyond a shadow of a doubt I do have to turn around walking down the aisle and walk out and say I'm sorry to everyone, that you're just that confident in your inner knowingness. But I will say that I think when somebody's really tapped into their intuition and they've really cultivated it, they won't be realizing it when they're walking down the aisle.
Right. Right. And you won't say yes to things that don't feel like a yes. I
Right.
have I have like a little, and I'm happy to do this with you. I have like this little exercise that I do with clients, and it's something that I call a full body yes. So, would you like to do that with me now, Holly?
It would, because I was literally just going to ask you the question about like what kind of tips would you give to people to start feeling this? And so you answered that question before I even got to it. I
I
love it.
intuitively knew. There you go. So I have a couple of things, but the first thing we'll do is the full body yes. So I'm going to ask you to tell me, Holly, tell me something to you that you love so much that always, all the time, it is a yes. I mean, this could be the beach. This could be ice cream. This could be going to the movies. It's funny. I had a client that told me it was making their bed. So what is something that makes you feel happy and like peaceful and just like there's flow in your life? Is there something that you feel is always a yes to you?
Any of my grandchildren,
Any of your grandchildren? So talk to me about
like
how like
just getting to be with them and hang out with them.
okay, so I want to say to you, Holly, this afternoon, you're going to hang out with your grandchildren and tell me, how does the thought of that feel to you?
It actually makes me feel emotional in a good way, getting a little teary eyed and excited and kind of like, okay, so what are we going to do?
What are we
Just,
going to do?
yeah, like because the times I get to spend with my grandchildren, to live near me, to live further away, but it's the closest I get at this time in my life to just being joyful.
I love that. And for
Yeah.
those that are not seeing Holly's face right now, there's a big smile on her face. She's touched her heart, and I can see, when they say, you can see a smile from your eyes, like she's
Yeah.
smiling from her eyes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that to me is a full body yes.
Yeah.
So your grandchildren are your yes.
Hmm.
and that feels to you warm and joyful and happy and fulfilling. Now I'm going to give you another scenario.
Okay.
Okay, your neighbors, your new neighbors come over and knock on your door and they say, "Oh, Holly, listen, I have this huge bag of garbage in my house and it stinks. It's awful and it's so heavy. I can't move it. And it's just, I can't even take the smell anymore and I have to get it out. Can you come and just like drag the garbage with me? Like, I need you to help me get rid of this awful, awful thing." How you feeling?
I'd be willing to help them, but I'd be wondering, should I put a mask on? Should I have gloves on? I mean, it would be, I would definitely help them because I like to help people, but there would be definite hesitation.
Okay, so tell me the feeling, comparing the garbage to
Yeah.
the feeling of your grandchildren. Two completely different feelings in your body.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And now, I know most people, when I give them the garbage scenario, they always say they would say yes because they consider themselves helpful and they want to be a good
Right.
neighbor and all the things. But like, you're like, don't you have anyone else to ask? You know, it's
Yeah.
like, it's got to be me kind of thing. And it's like, you would
Or how
let
did you let
it,
it get that bad?
right, right. And so, like, if you could say no, you
Yeah.
would, but you
Right.
feel like you can't. And a lot of times in our lives, this is what happens. The
Yes.
things that are yeses are easy, but the things that are nos come with guilt, come with these labels that we put on them. Like, if I were a good person, I'd say yes. If I, it's like all these reasons why you should say yes. So this is why we say no to things. Excuse me, we say yes to things even though they feel like no's.
Hmm.
And so, what I am inviting you and your audience to do is when somebody asks you anything, whether it be just, whether it be to take out the garbage or whether it be like maybe somebody's asking you to come to the movies with them and you're like, you know what? I just want to be home and like water my plants. I don't want to go to the movie. Like, I don't want to do that right now, kind of thing.
Right.
And feeling like, you know what? In my body, this feels like a no.
Yeah.
And I'm going to honor that and say, thank you so much, but not today. And leaving it at that because no is a full sentence.
Right.
Because I think that a lot of times when we say no to things, we then feel like we need to explain why or kind of give a whole story. I would, but da, 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 kind of thing. And then it's like, and then what's happening is you are diluting the fact that you have made a decision and your gut has told you this is a no. And now what you just did is you gifted yourself some extra time or some extra peace of mind or whatever it is that you are saying no to so you can say yes to you. So that is one way. So I invite your audience to find that thing that's a yes to them, figure out what it is that makes them feel like it's a yes. And then when people ask them, whatever it is you're asked, whether it be like, do you want to take on this extra project at work or do you want to join us for lunch or whatever it
Right.
is, you can say, give me a minute and you can check with yourself and say, does this feel like my grandchildren? Does this feel like the beach? Does this feel like a very well-made bed? Whatever it is. And if
Right.
the answer to that is no, then you go back and you say, I'm so sorry. Like, you don't have to be like rude or nasty about it. You can just be like, I really appreciate the offer, but I'm going to decline.
Right.
And there is grace in that. So that is one way that you can start working on your intuition. And if your listeners are interested, I mean, as I mentioned, I wrote a book. It's called The Way Within: Igniting Your Intuition Using Sacred Tools. And in my book, I talk about tarot, numerology, and charms. Charms are my own little homemade system. I have a little charm kit right here.
I wanted to
Created
ask you about your little charms because I just like the word just kind of sounds like fun and yummy.
Well, and this is the most yummy, like honestly, of the three. And it's funny, my mother, my 86-year-old mother, loves the charms. And she is not like I mean, she just finds like this is part of storytelling and really fun and engagement. And like, so my charm kit, for those that can't see, it's a little tin, and honestly, it could fit in your back jean pocket and it could fit in your bag easily. And in my charm kit, I'm going to open this up. I see that you have a necklace on. I'm wearing a necklace too. Do you have like a charm that you wear around your necklace? Around your neck, on your necklace? Anything special?
These are two different crystals, but
Okay.
I also have often a little pendant of Isis on my neck too.
Okay.
She just,
Okay.
I took her off this morning, but
But
yeah.
those are all charms. And
Yes.
so in my little charm kit, I'm just going to fold my computer down a little bit so you can see. So
Oh,
I have
look
like
at all those.
yeah, like I have like 100 charms in here. So I'm just going to pull out a couple and show you so you can see. So this is it's a spoon. It's a really big
Hmm.
spoon. Another charm I have in here, if you can see this, it says life ring on it. It's like a
Yeah.
buoy, that they put
Yeah.
on boats. This is a ladder. And I'll do one more for you. I have all different types. This is an
Little octopus.
octopus. Exactly. So if you want, we can do a charm reading for you and I can show you how it works because this is the idea of working with symbols. So if you don't have a charm kit, which I do, I sell them on my site. So if anybody wants a charm kit, they can absolutely get one. But like, for example, say like a few weeks, not a few weeks ago, maybe like last year, I was walking towards the park and somebody stopped me, a random person stopped me and they said, "Oh my God, there's an eagle in the tree." And I was like, where? So anyway, this stranger and I are looking at this eagle in the tree. And then
Wow.
I walked a little bit further and I passed by a magazine stand. And on the front page of one of the magazines at the magazine stand was a picture of an eagle with its wings spread wide, kind of flying on the front of the magazine. And then later that day, I walked by a bookstore and there was a book about eagles front and center. And I was like, why are eagles being, like it was like that day. And I thought to myself, like, well, what is an eagle? An eagle is like, it's a leader. It's a little bit of a predator. It's kind of like the eagle takes what it wants. The eagle doesn't wait for permission, kind of thing. So I was like getting information, but I was like, if the eagle were to give me a message, what would that message be kind of thing?
Right.
And that's the same idea. So what I'm going to do now, so how the charms work is I don't look in here and pick a charm for you. What I do is I turn away and I like rattle around in here until I pick a charm. So this is the charm that I
Oh, an
pulled for you.
anchor. Hmm.
An anchor, great. So, and all of these charms are things that you have seen before, just like I showed you the spoon, the octopus, the anchor. So, you pulled the anchor. So, this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to get a message for you about this anchor. So, there are four questions. The first question you already answered. What is this item? It's an anchor. So, the second question is imagine I have never seen an anchor before. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it does. I don't know its purpose in the world, its function, its use. And you, of all the people in the world, were chosen, Holly, to tell me what is an anchor. So when I am done talking to you, I'll understand it. And there is no right or wrong way to describe it. Whatever you say is right. So how would you describe an anchor?
I would say at the gross anatomy level is something that in the world of boating helps when boats are not wanting to sail or move. It goes into the ground or in the rocks and it holds them steady and it holds them in place until it's time to lift the anchor and move on again. So it's something that's stabilizing and holding in place. Physically, it's got an upright piece, and at the bottom of it, there are two parts that move up at an angle. So it's almost like a hook. And that hook would go down into the water and down into the ground or in the rocks to grab in and hold. And they would come in various sizes and be bigger for larger ships and smaller for smaller boats.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So now we're going to move on to the next question. Go with this. How, Holly, are you personally like an anchor?
Um, How am I like an anchor?
So think of the things that you said to me. You said that it steadies you so you
Yeah.
don't drift, that so all the things that you shared, think about the uses of an anchor. And you can even think about the
Yeah.
things that you didn't tell me. How do the anchor's characteristics align with any of your characteristics?
If I talk about, I would make, I guess, wow, this feels a little vulnerable, but I think in terms of the people around me, whether it's clients, whether it's family, I think there's a steadiness that I have that people count on.
Hmm.
And I can be that stabilizing force for people,
Yeah.
again, professionally or personally. And I also feel like I'm learning how to be that for myself.
You read my mind. My next question was going to be who's the anchor? Who's an anchor for you? If you are that for a lot of people, a lot of times the people that are givers in the world give, but don't really have anyone that does
Yeah.
it exactly like that for them, which is
Yeah.
really
And
important.
the big, I've been through a lot of changes in the last several years. And one of the, I've never thought about it from an anchor point of view, but I've been cultivating a different relationship with myself. And so that stabilizing force of the anchor is anchored into me.
I love that. Okay, so now we have the final question. And the final question is, I want you to imagine that this anchor can suddenly speak.
Mm,
And it has come here to this reading, to this moment, because it has a very important message for you. And this message could fit in a fortune cookie. It's not like this big, long book. It's a message that it needs you to know right now. That's why that anchor came up. So my
mhm.
question is, what does the anchor want you to know?
You can count on me.
You can count on me.
Yeah.
So there's your tarot, there's your charm reading. So the charms, and so each of these, and once again, everyone has a different relationship with
Yeah,
whatever charm we pull up. So it like, any this could have gone one in a million directions.
sure.
And so but it always lands because the charm reading I'm just the question asker. I'm just the one that comes to prompt you. Everything that we learned today about the anchor has come from you, and
Right.
so
And
did
that
your
would be from
fortune.
my intuitive understanding, right?
Correct. So how can we use, as I mentioned in my book, how do we use sacred tools to tap into our intuition exactly like this? And if you don't
Right.
have a charm kit, you're welcome to purchase one. But if you don't have a charm kit and you just want to go out into nature and see signs and what message does the tree have for you? And what message does a leaf on the ground have for you? And what message does a blooming flower have for you? Or the bee that is in it? Like there's a million different ways to figure out a message. And there isn't a question, is this right? Yes. If you
Right.
intuitively think it, it's right.
Right. Especially in your example of the day walking to the park and you have these multiple signs of eagles. It's like, okay, there's something about this that's here for me. And yes, we can go to our animal oracle cards or books or whatever, and we can look up some of this or even Google it online. But also allowing ourselves to, just like you brought through with the anchor, like, what does it mean? What does it feel like? What's the experience of that? And
Right.
with that, then what you're really allowing yourself to open up with your level of knowledge and intuition and learning to trust it. I love that.
And also just to add a little extra thing, like, so for example, if you were to say to me, I don't feel anchored right now. I feel adrift. I feel
Mm,
like I want to be anchored. So then what we could do is we could just turn the question around and then ask you, what do you need in order to feel anchored? And once again, that answer comes from you
Right.
because who knows you better than you?
And I think all of us are learning to know ourselves better as well, and not always relying on the outside source. That's what I love about what you're talking about, the way you're working with people, which I guess I like it because I really relate to this also, is not of clients coming to us as if we're the sage or the wisdom keeper, but we're the person who's creating a space to allow what's naturally within people to come out. So they start trusting themselves more and having that sense of confidence and empowerment. And it's not like, oh, I'm the wise one and I'm the only one that knows for you, but like, no, you know,
And
and
that's what I'm
I'll
looking to
help.
do. That's
Yes,
the gift I want to give you that you, just as we started this whole conversation, everyone has intuition. We
right.
are unfortunately at different levels of strengths with
Yes.
it, but all we need to do is create a practice in order to build that strength and therefore have a stronger sense of knowing.
Yeah, I love that. And so when you're working with your clients or somebody wanting to pick up your book, and because the title of your book talks about sacred tools. So in addition to charms or other things, does your book have some more how-tos that people could really have it almost like an intuitive development manual that they can start practicing and finding the ones like, oh, this resonates with me right now, so I'm going to practice it this way.
Yeah, I mean, my book, this is what my book is. I mean, I break down all of these same ideas, how to trust your intuition, how to use tools like tarot or journaling to build confidence in your daily life. I mean, my goal with the book was to make this all feel simple and personal. I don't want
Yeah.
it to feel so mystical, so out of reach. I mean, if you're curious about taking these ideas further or you want to practice, I mean, my book is filled with journal prompts, ideas, exercises. Every chapter has an exercise that you can do. Every chapter has some questions that you can ask yourself, so bring a spiral notebook and, it's just right
Yeah.
away because what happens is if you are open to it and you are in a moment of not fight or flight, not fear, but feeling calm. Sometimes, as you mentioned, like when you're talking with a friend, all of a sudden something comes forward and you have an idea. This is your opportunity to write that idea down so you
Mm-hmm.
can act on it. Because I feel as though the first thing you want to do is figure out what you want to do next. And then the second thing you want to do is take that actionable step
Yeah.
because it is you and you in this lifetime. Like I feel as though life is not a competition with anybody else. It's you against you, and it's up to you to move yourself forward. And I mean, I think we should all agree we deserve it.
I agree, and I just feel like when we're tapped into our truth, there's a calm, there's a confidence, that self-trust that takes us out of the comparative, like, oh, somebody understands better, they know better, but we're so confident in ourselves. I just feel like it allows us to interact with the world completely differently in a more peaceful, kind, loving, accepting way. Because I also feel like if I trust myself, then I can actually extend that to you, that like, I know you can learn to trust yourself as well. And I think that a lot of the world can change when we start being anchored in who we are that way more than we are anchored in somebody else doing or being or knowing
I agree
something
with that
more
so
than
much.
us.
And honestly, this, brings me back to like the fear or, situation. And I was told when I first started doing readings, you know, that everything that I do, especially when I'm reading other people, you have to come from a place of love. And I think that it's very hard for many of us to love ourselves. And when
Mm-hmm.
we show up in the world, there is that fear of belly flopping or like failing publicly, like in front of everyone. And so I want to give a reframe on this. I want to give like a little bit of a shift in the story. Like in life, What if there was no failure? What if we either win or we learn? And like, unless this is the last time you're doing it, get up, dust yourself off, and try again. Like, honestly, with the charms or with any of this, like with journaling, with meditation, with tarot, with any of these things, there is no wrong way to do it. So there is no failure. There's learning and winning.
Love it. I love that. So I'm going to ask you here if you could give a summary of what you feel some of the key benefits are for people by developing their intuition. We want to dangle a little carrot as one of your parting pieces of wisdom. How does life
Uh,
change?
I feel as though it takes your life from living in black and white to living in color. It brings you a presence and a fulfillment and a connection with life that I really don't know if it's possible any other way.
Hmm.
We are so used to living on autopilot. We are so used to being, with our I see people, I live in New York City, walk around all the time. People have their face in their phones. They're not participating. And doing this work and connecting to your intuition, it's like taking a full chested, deep breath of fresh air. And
Nice.
I extend my hand in invitation. It's really great on this side of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, once again, Dina's book is entitled The Way Within, Igniting Your Intuition with Sacred Tools. And just so everyone knows, if you're interested in connecting with Dina for the work she offers with her book, all of the ways to connect and find out more about the work that Dina is doing in the world will be in the description below. And that's whether you're on YouTube or whether you're on any of the podcast platforms, all of that will be there. So feel free to reach out to her, grab her book. Get your little charm kit. That was so cute for those of you who are just listening online. I love little things. So, like a little box of little things that you get to play with like that is just so amazing.
It's
And
fun and it fits everywhere. Like it's just you can throw it in your bag and bring it out like, with your
yeah,
friends to dinner and like do charm readings for friends. Anytime I
yeah.
go anywhere, they're like, "Did you bring your charms?" They love
Yeah,
it.
no, I've never seen that way before. So I
Yeah.
love again the practicality and the groundedness of what you're offering. And I know that anyone listening to this who is inspired, who has a desire, and maybe hasn't felt like I don't know how to connect with my intuition. I don't know how to have it grow. Connect with Dina and her work. You will be able to find what you need and allow that to grow and see how it's going to have that personal impact on your own life. So thank you so much, Dina. This has been so much
Oh,
fun to connect with you
thank
and
you.
what you have to share. It's been a blessing to have you here.
I
And thank
appreciate
you.
you.
Oh, I appreciate you too. And thank you to all the listeners of Alchemy of Awakening. So happy you're here, and we will see you for the next episode. Love to you all. Bye bye.